joined by head basketball coach Nicki Collen with us here this evening. Nicki, good to have you here with us. The voice is at 100%?
The voice is definitely not 100%. First time all year I've lost it was 3 games in 3 days and hasn't made its way back yet consistently.
Yeah. 3 intense games in 3 days.
Pretty intense games, yeah.
I mean, you're talking.
None of them were gimmies. None of them were runaway, like, let me rest at the end.
In a 48-hour period, there were about 125 minutes of basketball. And how many of those would you say were within a couple of possessions, that kind of basketball? I mean, I'd say well over half, if not more.
Yeah, I think only kind of the stretch when we were down 8 or 10 to TCU on the wrong side of that I thought we took a couple bigger leads against Oklahoma State, and then they evaporated real quick with Micah Gray's 3. So, yeah, intense weekend.
Very much so. And now I know for the players it's, and not a break per se, but I know they just, as you said, put together 3 games in a short amount of span. Were they able to get a little bit of time to rest up mentally and physically this week?
Yeah, I think Monday and Tuesday with it being spring break, we gave them Monday and Tuesday off. Staff definitely didn't feel that in this world of the portal has started portaling, if you haven't seen. And, I do have assistant coaches to hire coming this spring. So a lot going on outside of just preparing for an unknown opponent. But grateful to maybe not have to be up doing something at 8 a.m.
The business of the program just keeps on.
I did get a railing put in. Stair railing, something I've been wanting to do for about 2 years. Mm-hmm. So I did get that done. So I did get some home improvement done.
So you're checking a few boxes at home
a couple.
And at Foster as well. So we visit here with head coach Nicki Collen. So I'm curious, what percentage of questions, if people just see you out and about lately, what percentage of questions have involved either Dariana Littlepage, Bugs' health, or are we going to play at Foster?
Yeah, I think that's pretty consistent. Bugs was back at practice today. Everyone clap it up for that. Super proud of her. She did, I would say, close to 75% of practice. And, there's a little bit of tentativeness, a little bit of rust, but I thought pretty fearless. So was good to have her back when it comes to Foster. We obviously don't know and won't know until Sunday, but I do believe all our numbers, like nothing can happen in the next 72 hours that's going to change our positioning in the net, that's going to change our quad 1 wins. No one can get more. So I think we've positioned ourselves to feel really, really good about it. But obviously we're not the decision makers. So we can still pray and cross our fingers and all the things that we need to do. But I do believe we've done what we need to do to play at home.
How big we're getting a couple of wins in Kansas City and being right there for a third.
Yeah, I think some people thought we just needed to win our first game. I felt like we needed to get to the championship. I also heard we needed to keep it close in the championship. But, I think when you look at the other teams that are slotted kind of into that 4 seed, there's none that have, like, a better resume than we do. So I don't even think we're, like, to me, when I look at comparison, I don't think we're 16. I think we're 14 or 13 when it comes to our resume. So, but I think it was important that we played well just because, Iowa State, we knew that was going to be like playing a road game because of their fan base and how they travel to Kansas City. Then obviously Oklahoma State gave us our biggest whooping of the season. So there was a little bit of payback necessary there. And certainly I honestly do believe that, I honestly do hope for a 4th opportunity to beat TCU because that doesn't sit well with me.
That'll be that'd be deep in
the
tournament,
down the
right
road,
down
that's
the road.
Right.
That would be fun. We've been right there each and every time, and 2 of those without Dariana Littlepage Bugs, a double not in the lineup here these last couple of weeks. And to that point, you talked about the team's resume, and it's been an interesting year in regards to the record has been good throughout the year, but it took a little time. It felt like to earn everyone's respect. Is it meaningful that you think about how many big wins you've had? But it almost feels like in the last couple of weeks, right? In reality, it's been about the last month and a half. But it's been such a steady climb there, and you look top 20 in the nation in assists per game, rebounds per game, blocks per game, all these things. There's a resume that even goes beyond the net and the record that looks really good.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was just how the Big 12 schedule was laid out. Certainly, if if you beat UCLA, like that's totally different. But I think when you look at outside of the early Oklahoma State game, the bulk of the teams that finished in the top 4 or 5, we played at the end. And so we knew when we saw that schedule in September that we were going to have a very, very condensed and tough February. And I think the way that we played in February, which was undefeated, was a testament to the growth of the team, the testament to the resilience, losing bugs and finding a way, which really showed up even in Kansas City. Bella was in foul trouble. It felt like most of the tournament. And we had some foul trouble against Iowa State with all of our 5s. But I thought the production we got out of Aaliyah Matharu, out of Wise Jennings, we kind of, someone always stepped up. Someone always found a way to help us and step up.
Is there a silver lining in the injury to Bugs? You went 6-2 without her. The 2 losses were very, very close. And did your team grow from that in some meaningful ways?
Well, I think, there are certain things that we do maybe better. And I think I had to change, whether it was figuring out when to go small or against TCU, when to go big. We haven't played Kyla and Nettie together since November. For a variety of really good reasons, but certainly I thought it worked, and I thought in that moment it was really good to us. It got us better rebounding. It got us to bigs near the rim. We were able to get downhill and create space as a result of it, and it was harder to switch. So for TCU, so I think we learned there's a lot of different ways to play and win. But and also kept those players engaged. I think when you get to mid-January and your rotations are pretty set and roles are pretty established, players don't purposely check out, but it happens. Like if they don't really feel like they're going to get significant or consistent minutes, it doesn't mean they're not good teammates, but there's a mental checkout at times, and it really checked everybody back in because obviously Kayla Nems probably plays the least, but, she had to go into a Big 12 tournament game in a key moment, and, Wise wasn't playing as much, and all of a sudden she played huge in our win at Kansas State, big minutes in the Oklahoma State game. So it keeps those players really, really engaged, which I think helps practice, helps preparation in every area.
We had Joey Scrivano on the first half hour, and he was talking about how some players who hadn't played as much were stepping into some key minutes as of late and excelling. And, of course, reminded me a lot of this team. There's kind of that idea, everyone eats. You've got so many players. First team in how many years, Colin? It's the only team this year to have at least 6 players with 300 points. That's essentially 10 points a game, give or take for the most part. You've got, everyone in the starting lineup. Everyone who started a game this year was an all Big 12 performer. What does it say about the character of a team when you lose a player like a Dariana Little-Page Bugs and players are able to step up and you can see, again, like you had Kyle and Wise making big plays in key games along the line, and maybe those aren't things you had predicted at the beginning of the year, but you've seen that grow throughout.
Well, I think, the one thing we do, and I've coached for other people, I've gone to a lot of practices. We don't separate. If it's a day before a game, the starters are always going to be together. We're going to prep for that game. But if we have 2-day prep, if we have 3-day prep, I'm mixing them up, and we give maybe not equal reps, but very, very consistent reps to everyone on our roster. And that's an advantage when you have a little bit smaller roster. But I know a lot of programs, if you're not in that top 7 or 8, your reps are very, very limited. And you do more scout team stuff and I think that puts you in position where those players are not ready. They're not ready when these opportunities arise. And so that's just something I believe in. I mean, there's never been a time, and I don't say this to say kids aren't tough today, but the things that we played through when I played are very, very different than the types of injuries and that players play through today. And also our technology is so much better. So if it wasn't broken, you played, 30 years ago. But now we have bone scans, we have MRIs, we have, you have a stress reaction, a stress fracture, a hot spot, you name it, they'll find it. And so, like if you don't have people lined up that can play, then your goals can evaporate really, really quickly. And when Jana went down, that was really tough on us. I don't think people quite understand how well she had played in the summer and the fall and what she would have meant to our team this year. I realistically saw her playing 22 to 25 minutes a game off the bench. And so, to replace those minutes and have to figure that out and get Aaliyah up to speed. And, especially with the kind of, Nettie really likes to get in foul trouble. And so having people ready to play is the difference between winning and losing. And so I think this team has really good players. They all came here not to sit on the bench, but to play. And sometimes you have to wait your turn, and sometimes you don't get the minutes you want. But if you keep working for them, if you keep getting the reps right, I'm more apt to believe in you and give you that opportunity.
It's funny, as Lori Fogelman and I do in the game, sometimes we're watching a big game, and there's been a lot of them as of late, and we've been excited about what we're seeing. In the back of our mind, it's like, and they're doing this without Darian Littlepage Buggs. And then it's like, and they're doing it without Jana, and they're doing it without Madison. I think it's maybe even worthy of some applause. The roster construction of this team, that they've been able to weather 3 big losses for key stretches of the season and are still top 25, top 15 now, number 14 in the nation, and playing for a home first and second round at Foster Pavilion. Is that something that's a little special to you when you the work you all put in to put a roster together? There's so much that can go wrong, so much can go right, and when you see it play out the way it has, is there a little special feeling? You're like, hey, you know what? Like, we got the right people here, and even though they're not on the floor, it's meaning something.
Yeah, I think it's I was being in the pros. Everything is about roster construction. Everything is about managing your cap and understanding the value in an 8th player, an 11th player, what those players need to look like, the type of teammates they need to be, and we value character. And you don't always get it right. You don't. But I also think that I also learned coming to Baylor that you can't have too much talent. There's if you're worried about losing players and you don't have enough talent, then you may not meet your goals because of injuries, because of a lot of things, And so, I think we were really focused on, obviously I inherited amazing talent when I got here. And, I think that second year, we had talent, but we were too young. And we weren't deep enough. And we weren't talented enough when push came to shove, and it was about, hey, we're never going to put ourselves in this position again. Like, whether it's through the portal, whether it's through high school recruiting, we never want to not be talented enough to win basketball games. And then we just have to figure out how to manage players. And that's what you have to do today. Like, that's where we're at in college sports. It's about roster management. It's about keeping your players happy. And you get that right, hopefully, more than you get it wrong. And you don't get them all right, but you try, and you treat them really, really well, and you try to have them prepared. And one of the things that's really important to me that doesn't happen, I know at a lot of places, head coaches handle the top 3 players or the top 4 players, and assistants handle the rest. I've never been like that because I was once the 11th player. And then I also was the number 1 player. When you think about my 4-year basketball career, and I wouldn't have ever gotten to be the number 1 player if someone didn't invest in me when I was the 11th. And so I just don't believe in that type of separation where only your best players feel like they can really walk into your office. They can really, that they really think you believe in them. And so that's just always been important to me, and it's probably more related to my own personal experience than it is what I've learned working for other people.
Well, you look at that. I think we're going to talk about Aaronette Vonleh. We can all focus on her 37 points against Oklahoma State. That was fantastic. But I think you even see signs of that certainly off the court with this team because it's a great group of young women. But then you also think about in game, like when the shot clock's winding down in a tight game, and Wyatt Jennings and Kyla Abraham are collaborating for a little skip pass at the shot clock buzzer. How meaningful is that? In the moment, it's big. But do you sit back and smile a little bit when you think about that?
Well, I guess I've made them fearless enough to make the late plays. I'm not sure that I knew in that moment When Wise hit the three against Oklahoma State, I told her to move it. She shot it. But I think, and hit it, which was great, which was really great. But I think, the beauty of the bounce pass layup at the shot clock buzzer that Kyla hit with a pass from Wise is nobody knows how many times we've repped that. It's every day for 10 minutes. It's ball screen, hit the roller. Ball screen, hit the roller. Wise, turn your shoulders, eyes to the rim. Like you can't throw it if you don't look, and how many times I've said that. And then in that moment for her to complete it and do it exactly like she's supposed to and gets it wrong 3 out of 4 times, it was really cool to see that translate because we do it every day. We were just, she was just over watching her junior college team play today in the regional tournament. So Wise has come a long way for sure.
It's fun to see that kind of development for sure. We're visiting with head coach Nicki Collen, talking Baylor women's basketball. We're going to talk tournament a little bit later on. We got to talk about Aaronette Vonleh's continued development, all of that upcoming. Great crowd, by the way, tonight. I know we're going head-to-head with the men against Texas Tech, but we appreciate everyone being here.
Yeah, we got to get these guys to help them cover the three-point line is what we got them. Get them to do.
There we go. They're
Giving
scoring.
up too many threes.
They're scoring, but Texas Tech is too. Long way to go in this one, but we appreciate y'all being with us here at Rudy's this evening. And assuming we got a couple more games at Foster, we got to get them out there to Foster as well. Boy, right. That was a great crowd to end the year against TCU. If we could get something like that, these hopefully next two. That's
what we need. That's the advantage. That is the advantage of hosting first and second rounds. And for anyone that was at Virginia Tech, we went through the gauntlet to get out of there, because that crowd was insane.
Got a couple of fan questions. Lori wants to know, we could see it out of the corner of our eye here at Rudy's, the 12 court in Kansas City. She wants to know what the girls think about it. Do they know?
I think it was kind of a mixed. I think there was a little bit of, it looks a little TCU-ish. Right? And then there was, it looks like we're playing on a Louis Vuitton floor. So there was kind of like a mixed thing. So, yeah, from that perspective. It
was a designer court, right? It's, I think, undefeated. The clothing line designed it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say that nothing is as bad as the TCU court, in my opinion. I'm speaking on behalf of me, no one else. But that's my opinion. By the way, someone wants to know the call. They like the call about getting Vonleh open for three at the end of the TCU game. And I'm curious, the way TCU had been guarding, how much was that about trying to get someone who would probably get the best look there late? She almost hit it.
Yeah, I think okay, so you guys don't know this about me, but I have a fairly photographic memory. And so when a game ends and I'm like processing a game at 5 a.m., I can replay possession by possession the game in my mind. It's like it's replaying possession by possession. And so, I was a little frustrated with myself on that play because I think now, and of course hindsight's always 20/20, I had enough time to give Sarah a first look and Nettie a second. So if I had to do it all over again, and I don't know why I admit this to you, but whatever, it's me, open book. I would have gone to a set that we got Sarah 3 when we were at TCU late. She missed it, but I got her a really good look from 3, and I would have played off that play and had option 1, and then if she didn't get the shot, then we could have gone to Nettie because it would have given her a corner 3. And if when they changed the length of the three-point line and they moved it back, below the break, you know how in the corners it's like a straight line and then we call it the break when it starts to curve because it's not curved the whole way? Nettie shoots below the break better than she does at the top of the key because it's a little bit shorter. So if I had to do it all over again, I would still give her the look from 3. I just would have run it in the corner so it was a little bit shorter. But yes, to your question, the way Sedona Prince plays, they were going to cover up our shooters. They were going to cover up Yaya. They were going to cover up. They can switch out. I didn't want Emma Nopu anywhere near the ball because when I've tried to run action, she's their best defender. So, the idea of getting a shot, the way Sedona played ball screens, I knew we could get her a 3. So we ran the action once. Sarah threw that ball to the moon. And so by the time it landed, Sedona was back. That's when Nettie ripped it, drove it, shot a layup, which, just so everyone knows, that was Nettie's first drive from the three-point line all season. So that was fun to see. And then, my Keeter, the next time, she probably didn't drag the defender quite far enough to get as clean a look as I would have liked. But I thought it was going in when she shot it, and I believed she could make it. So, yes, it was a combination, but I still second-guess everything. So I wish I would have run it for a corner three instead of a top-of-the-key three. So that would be the adjustment I would make.
Well, she can hit that shot, and honestly, it was right there. It hit the rim twice, actually, with a pretty soft touch. Just breaks of the game, I guess. I mean, it was a great look. No one within a few feet of her. So
no, and I mean, we needed to go. We needed to go. We had enough time that I probably could have tried to get a look for Sarah first.
Hey, Luann wants to know any of these seniors looking at the WNBA, and do they kind of get to talk to you about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think they would all want to play in it. It's just the most difficult pro league in the world to make, and so hopefully we can get a couple kids drafted, or at minimum get them into camp. You guys probably saw Caitlin Bickle sign a training camp contract with the Sun again. But a lot of times you got to earn your way in that league. And I think the beauty of where we're at in women's basketball right now, the numbers are staggering. A few years ago you could probably buy an existing WNBA franchise for $5 to $10 million. Then Portland and Golden State bought their franchise for $50 million, just to give you like a gauge. And I don't know if you've seen, but Cleveland is supposedly going to get the next, and they supposedly are willing to pay $250 million for a WNBA team. So just think about that. Think about the growth and where they think this is headed. And so I say that only to say there are still only 13 teams this year. So technically there are only 156 jobs, and I promise you there aren't that many, because more teams will carry 11 than 12 to get the right people under the cap. So it's going to be hard for anyone to make a roster, but I think with the growth in the league, adding Toronto, adding Portland, eventually adding Cleveland, this age group of players, if they'll keep grinding and play overseas, they're going to have options, because 4 years from now, when those teams are looking, and maybe rosters grow with the new CBA and they're not 12, they're 14, now there's more roster spots, and teams aren't going to want all 22-year-olds. They're going to want 26-year-olds and 27-year-olds that are a little bit seasoned, and with Unrivaled and with Athletes Unlimited. It's just a really, really cool time in women's basketball. So do I know if they'll make the league? No. Part of our success is 6 players having 300 points or more, because we're balanced. And most of the players that get drafted tend to be the 15 to 20 point per game scores. But I think we've got some kids over time that I think are capable of playing in that league.
Well, Coach Nicki, great questions there. We are about out of time. A couple things to mention. Sunday night, 6:30 doors open at the practice gym at Foster Pavilion. 7 o'clock is the selection show. This team deserves to host. We'll find out.
Let's go.
Sounds good. Let's hear for Coach Nicki Collen. Bears heading into postseason play.